Yes, indeed. Celebrating 500 episodes of the Bladtcast, as always. I am Christian Blatt, excited to be joined by the one, the only, the Mr. Jon Lovitz.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. And, there's so much I want to talk to you about. And I figured I'd start with the idea of at what moment did you feel like, oh, I'm funny? Because we have all known that you're funny for decades. But when did you, Jon Lovitz, realize that Jon Lovitz was so funny?
Well, I I knew I wanted to be funny when I was 5. I slept over at a friend's house, and he had twin beds, and his mom said, "Go to bed." So it was about 9 at night, and the light, I couldn't close my eyes, and I could still see him. So I just laid there with my eyes open. All of a sudden, he popped up out of his bed. He goes, and made a face at me, and then laid back down, and I started laughing. Then he looked back and he kept doing it and then lying down like nothing happened. Because he acted like he was asleep, and I was just crying, laughing. He kept doing it. And I remember then, for the first time in my life, thinking, okay, I want to be funny like Michael. Where is he today? I don't know.
But when I've heard you talk in the past, it seems like a lot of people you grew up with ended up being doctors. So I'm just going to assume he also became a doctor because it seems like many people.
His mom was my dad's nurse in his office. So.
Oh, okay. So that might be the case. Yeah, I think that obviously there's thinking you're funny with friends and funny at school. And I never had the self-confidence to think I was funny. I do remember a couple times.
What happened, I saw Woody Allen's first movie, Take the Money and Run, when I was 13. And I went, oh, man, I want to be a comedian like Woody Allen.
Yeah.
So that's when it first dawned on me. And then I started doing plays in high school. And the second play I did, when I was a junior, and it was an all-girls school. And my school is all boys. So a friend of mine had the lead in this play at this all-girls school, and he goes, "Hey, they need guys." So he goes, "We'll have a lot of fun." And so I said, "Oh, all right." So there was I had 3 parts in the play. The Man Who Came to Dinner. It was a very famous play, and when I came out, I was getting huge laughs, and it was the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
I still do it. The other thing is I like making people laugh. Like that to me is fun. I like doing that.
Yeah.
So why are you a comedian? I think I'm the only one I've ever heard going, I like making people laugh.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've heard you talk about how, you studied, I guess you studied drama at UC Irvine, right? And
yeah.
Everybody starts talking about, why they want to go into the theater, but you had a different approach, right?
Yeah, my teacher, my first class is, why do you want to be an actor? And he's asking, they go, oh, like this, the art, this. And he comes to me, he goes, why do you want to be an actor? And I said, for the applause. he went, like, I remember he went, well, I appreciate your honesty, but you have to have more than a reason than that. And I go, why?
Yeah.
And I was a joke. I go, why? He goes, well, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, but that's still the end result. Like when you think about, how many musicians do you hear in an interview that like, well, I picked up a guitar because I wanted to, meet girls. And, that it's usually the impetus for anything is, some kind of.
Yeah, because I did the play and the crowd went, when I took my bows, the crowd went nuts. And then and the prettiest girl in the school fell in love with me. And I was like, this is like great. It does, but not just the applause, but it's approval. It does feel great. And getting but making people laugh, it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, it's funny because I grew up in a really small town, outside of New York City. It was a small high school, and I was in I liked being on stage. I liked performing, and I was an awful singer. And the year I was a junior, the musical was this play called Once Upon a Mattress. Carol Burnett did it in the 60s on Broadway. It's a fun, it's a very very
like Princess and the Pea.
It's basically the Princess and the Pea. It's not too racy for, high school kids. And there's a mute king who doesn't sing at any point. And I was like, I think I found my calling. And I did that. And it was so much fun. And then the next year we did South Pacific, and they gave all my songs to the chorus because I was such a terrible singer. But I still got to be out there,
Yeah.
wearing a coconut bra. So
I mean, yeah, doing plays in high school was more fun than any play I ever did. I mean, one of the things, it was just
Sure.
sheer fun.
To keep it with UC Irvine for a moment, I always think it's interesting that your inspiration for Master Thespian is an actual Master Thespian, an actual person who taught acting to you, correct?
A lot of it was, yeah, William Needles.
Yeah.
Uh, he was in the Stratford Festival in Canada, which is a rep group. It's like this. There's like the two top repertory groups in the world are, the Royal Shakespeare Company and then the one in Canada, the Stratford Festival, and they do, it's a huge company, huge budget. They do plays year round, and they have seasons. They do them a lot of plays. And Maggie Smith would go there all the time, and Brian Bedford. But William Needles, he came to our school to teach us Shakespeare, and he was just great to me, and I made him laugh, and he was very fond of me. And I went to his office one time. I go, hey, Mr. Needles. He always would tell this story. I go, Mr. Needles, do you think I can act? He goes, well, I don't know. I've never seen you do anything. I go, oh yeah, right. So he goes, well, why don't you learn this, Lancelot Gobbo? Why don't you try this? I go, okay. I go, well, when's class? He goes, Thursday. I go, all right, I'll learn it for Thursday. He goes, no, you can't learn it that quick. I go, yeah, I can. Don't worry. I'll do it. So, and I did, and then I did it, and he was dying laughing. But he was always very supportive. And he'd play for me this record, John Gielgud, Ages of Man. And it was like the drama department was so small. There's only 90 kids. So it was like going to a private school, really. And, so you had when I think back about it, it was extraordinary. So, he'd hear John Gielgud doing King Lear. And he goes, I want you to do this in class. And so they were in class. He goes, and I was known as like the class clown. And he goes, now listen, everyone. I know Jonathan's very funny, but this is serious, and I want you to pay attention. Hey, my cat. So he goes, so I was doing King Lear, and some girl goes, oh, you made me cry. And I'm, Cordelia. I'm just imitating John Gielgud. Cordelia, stay a little. This feather stirs. Why, she's still alive. I don't remember it, but he was great. So, but he had a big voice. So I remember our first class. He goes, I'm going to be teaching you Shakespeare, and he goes, so here's an example. This is the speech from the chorus, the opening of the play Henry V. Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention. Like that. I'm like, what the fuck? I'd never heard anything like that. And I could just imitate him. And Master Thespian, also, I like, actors that were bigger than life, for real. John Barrymore, John Kerry,
Oh, sure.
guys with these big voices, and very dramatic.
And yeah, I remember in high school they showed us it was a BBC version of Hamlet with Derek Jacobi. I think Patrick Stewart, I think, was Claudius. And I had never seen anything like that. And he's a great actor, but there's still those moments where you're like, if you're not used to that kind of, I to this day, 35 years later, I remember he's like, to be or not to be, and he looks in the camera. That is the question, and I'm like, what is he doing? Like, he's right in our face on our television.
It's a little over the top. They would sing the lines, they'd sing them.
Yeah.
And I remember I just saw William Shatner at this autograph show, and he goes, and he was a Shakespearean actor, at Stratford. He knew my teacher, Bill Neals. He goes, oh, Bill Neals. And he goes, yeah, I don't know why they do it like that. Doesn't it sound real? And then William Shatner would do it just like real, and it sounds great. You can understand what he's talking about. I'd watch the BBC. Of course, they're great actors. One time they had 5 guys from the Royal Shakespeare Company. There was a professor at UC Santa Barbara, and he got these guys to do a show and teach students, and they came to Irvine. And 2 of the guys were Ben Kingsley and Patrick Stewart, and they were great on stage. They were great. And Ben Kingsley, I sat in the grass, me and 4 of the students. He goes, oh, I'll teach you guys how to do Shakespeare, how we do it. It's great. And but a lot of times, I'd watch the BBC and their voices would be like, so up and down. I didn't know what they were saying. It goes, My Lord, I come to thee upon the stage. I mean, that's what it sounded. You're like, what?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
what?
and it's like they would take it so seriously, but it's
Okay,
like,
they go, you have to have variety in your voice, which
yeah.
is true, but you don't want variety for variety's sake. There's got to be a reason and a thought behind it, an emotion. You can't just your voice go up and down for no reason. That's what newsmen do on the news, right? When they read the news, they go, you have to have variety. Okay, today there was an accident on the freeway, and we'll see what it was about right now.
Right, exactly. The
It
old,
makes no.
yeah, right,
They're just varying their voice, and
right
there's
after
nothing
this.
behind
Yeah.
it.
So Master Thespian, of course, is something that you develop in that way. Is that something that you honed when you joined the Groundlings, which I assume was shortly after
Yeah, I
college?
was well. No, I graduated in '79. I went to the Groundlings in '82.
Okay.
I did a class for a camera, a year and a half. This guy Tony Barr, which was great, and then acting in front of the camera, which a friend of mine from college, Mike Sabatino, said he graduated before me, like 3 months before. I go, what do we do? Like, I don't. He goes, well, everything in LA is on camera, movies and TV. So he goes, I'm taking a class for the camera. And I go, okay. I had no idea what to do. And then I wasn't getting anywhere. I went to New York for a year, wasn't getting anywhere. I did the Renaissance Fair.
Which, by the way, that was I grew up the town next to that Renaissance Fair, the one in Tuxedo, New
Tuxedo,
York. Yeah.
Sterling Forest.
Yeah, my high school that I referenced earlier is in Tuxedo, New York. That's the
Oh,
greatest summer job you can have when you're 16. And, everybody who works there is, girls from other high schools that, in my case, didn't know how cool I was at my high school, so I could, they could meet me for the first time. And, I worked at a tavern, like just slugging around beer at 16. And it's just like,
it was really fun.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And, that was always the thing. It's like, well, Jon Lovitz used to be here. And you think of that a lot of, some of the actors were great. Like they would do like an instant Shakespeare show.
I didn't know that. I did it one summer. A friend of mine
Okay.
in college got me an audition. And so I got, what happened? And I got to do it. Exit full screen.
We can stay full screen. That's fine.
No, I have it on my camera. Oh, maybe I'll get back into it. And so it was really fun. You just improvise all day, and you go make up a character. So I was the village prankster.
Well, so even me working at a tavern was like, we were encouraged to do the accent, and they, at least when I did it in like the early 90s, you were encouraged to be mean to the customers because that's what they were there for. I doubt that now. I'm sure now people would complain.
No, they never said be mean, but I could just go around it and just do, you just stay in character. And I go, look, a woman will have a baby in a stroller, and I go, look at that man masquerading as a baby. He stole my wallet, my money, and then I'd go on stage. I was nuts. I was like 24, so I'd go on stage. I'd go backstage. I get a skirt and a wig, and I had a mustache. And there was a new tampon, not used, but in the white thing. So I have it like it was a cigarette, and I go, and and they'd be waiting to do the joust. At the end of the day, there's like 5,000 people. So they go, there'll be no more archbishops, only arch rabbis. And then the guards. There'd be the big procession with the queen and the guards would see me on stage. They go, and they'd run after me and chase me, and I'd be running around. It was really fun.
Yeah, you could tell how much fun people were having. The actors all the way down to my official title was beverage runner, and it's just because people are showing up to have fun, and it's not like Disneyland prices. You know what I mean? So it's like
the weekend, and everybody was with everybody.
Oh yeah. There was a whole scene at the campsite, and there was a bar down the street.
Everyone's young in their 20s. It was fun. And then,
so you only did that 1 year, though, huh?
Lady Windermere's fan with people that were in the Renaissance Fair. They told me about it, So I tried out for that and got that, and then, but I wasn't getting anywhere. So I moved back to Los Angeles '82 and started a class at the Groundlings, and then I got worked my way through the classes, and then I got in a scene. We had to do scene nights. And that's where I worked on Master Thespian, doing it in a scene.
Right. And at that point for the Groundlings, Lorraine Newman one of the original SNL cast members had been a member there. She was like the big name, or were there already a lot of people who'd established themselves
Well,
from
there was
that?
her. I'd been there 5 years before. A manager, David Stewart. It's a small world. Like I grew up with Lisa Kudrow's brother David and her family. Lisa, like my little sister, and they have another sister, Helene, and she's working for a manager named David Stewart, who was working for Larry Thompson, who's a big manager. So she said, "Hey, this guy will give you advice." So I said, "David, what should you want me in comedy?" He goes, "Go to the Groundlings. There's a guy named Paul Rubens, and he has a midnight show as his character Pee Wee Herman, and it's really funny. You should be like in that." He was right. So I went to the show,
Sure.
and Paul Rubens, I mean, his Pee Wee was just hysterically funny, crazy funny, and people were, I mean, I was crying laughing. It was so funny. And then I called the next day, and I go, "Hey, I want to take class." I go, "Come on down," and it scared me. This guy, Lou, I later became close with friend Tom Maxwell, but he had this big accent. I don't know. I was an idiot. I was scared, but I finally went back, and a lot of people helped me. This girl in my acting class of Tony Bars, I ran into her. I was valeting at a party, and she had she got married to this guy Max Fink, who was a lawyer, and he helped me pay for 2 sessions at the Groundlings. And I mean, a lot of people helped me, and then. But I got into the main company. That's where I started doing sketches. And this girl Hillary Krieger was in there. She's already her husband was a writer, so she taught me how to write sketches, which was great, and how to outline them and do it.
Right, and by the way, I don't know how much it changed, but there's this HBO special of like the Pee Wee show that it's before he does the actual kids show, and I mean I remember seeing that and it's just like this is one of the funniest things I've ever seen, and
Well, Tim Stack was in the Groundlings when I was
right.
already in. Phil Hartman, he was like the king of the Groundlings, and then I got to understudy. I got in the Sunday Company, and after a year, I didn't get voted in. So Tom Maxwell said, "Well, why don't we see how we?" So I didn't know what to do because I thought by then I was good enough, and there was people getting in the company at that point that I knew I was better than. And the director of the company, Tracy Newman, who's Lorraine's sister, said, "She goes, no, you are good enough to be in the company, but you're talented. You can do other stuff." I go, "I'm here to be in this."
Yeah.
So I was pretty pissed. So Tom goes, "Why don't we see how we work together? You can understudy a part in this play." It was called Chick Hazard, Olympic
Which
trials.
that's like a character that Phil did that I
Right.
think variations of Chick Hazard you see on SNL, right? It's sort of
Yeah.
like the
Yeah. He did it one time on the show, or maybe twice, but he did it. And it was the Olympics in '84 in LA, and they had an Olympic Arts Festival, and they funded 99 seat theaters, non-equity theaters to do plays, and the Groundlings was one. So they go, "You have to come up with a play that has the Olympics as a theme." So anyway, they picked Phil, a character, and they set the play in the 1932 Olympics in LA, and his character is like, Humphrey Bogart, Sam Spade detective, like
yeah.
that. And he was brilliant at it. So I got to understudy, and I said, "Well, whose idea was it for me to understudy?" And they go, "Phil's." I go, "What? Phil knows who I am?" He goes, "Yeah." And I go, and we all looked at him. He's a big, 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 like a star in the ground. And everyone's mind, the ground, he's a star. He's like, genius. And I remember I was in the hallway of the Groundlings. They had the hallway where you have lockers, and I was in my locker, and I saw Phil walking down in his costume with the fedora and the makeup. I guess he was doing a photo shoot. I go, "Hi, Phil. I'm Jon Lovitz." He goes, "Yeah, John, I know who you are." I go, "You do?" "Yeah, I've seen your work. I think you're fantastic." I go, "Thank you." I go, "Thanks for recommending me to understudy the part." He goes, "Oh yeah, you'll be great." And he kept walking, and I was in my mind. I went, "God, Phil Hartman spoke to me." Like that's how big a deal he was. So I got in the Groundlings, and Lorraine Newman saw me the first night I did that play. She was doing the movie with Jamie Lee Curtis.
And John Travolta, perfect. Yeah.
And John Travolta. She brought John Travolta to the show. They come backstage, and Lorraine goes, "Oh, you're so good." She goes, "How long have you been doing this show?" I go, "It's my first night." She goes, "No, really?" I go, "It's my first night." She goes, "No, will you stop? Really? How long?" I go, "No, I'm telling you." I go, "It's my first night." I go, "I'm understanding a part, and this is my first night." She goes, "You're kidding." I go, "No." she was blown away. So anyway, she befriended me. So later on, she recommended me to Lauren for SNL, the next year. And I got a movie with Charles Grodin, and he recommended me. And Mike Eisenstadt, who I knew, he'd become an agent, and he signed me. And Mike helped me get the show. He submitted my tape. And
before
March
you
6,
before
5, we got in the Groundlings got in the Tonight Show, and I did my liar character on there.
yeah, that
Look
was
at it now, I go,
that was one of those moments
"Where's my
when,
son?"
like at that point, being on the Tonight Show was, like
Huge break.
even like being on the Super Bowl now, it's like almost like not as many people watching as watch the Tonight Show at that point, I'm sure. So I'm sure so many people saw
No,
you.
it's like 5 million people.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Less than 2 million watch it now, but 5 million. It was a huge break. It helped me get, Mike, he went to his agent. He goes, "Can I sign him now?" He kept trying to sign me. He goes, "He's on the Tonight Show." Okay.
And the time that you
Very
spent
lucky,
at the
man.
Groundlings before auditioning for SNL, I assume you worked a lot with Phil Hartman. And did you guys develop
No, I didn't.
there?
When I got in the main company, then
Yeah.
we
But
did
did you
improv.
develop the thing that you had done on the show? But also there's actual video of some of the SNL auditions. Yours isn't there, but
No,
Phil's
his
is there,
isn't.
and
Yeah, and I
you
didn't
come up
realize.
at the end, and you do the thing that I always liked, which is the we're gonna have to let you go, and he's like, "Oh, don't beat around the bush, tell me," and then he just doesn't get it, and you're like,
We
"No, I'm
would
telling you,
always
you're
do that.
finished."
Yeah, and I said, "Why don't we write a sketch of it? We're always doing it." I forgot, though. I didn't realize how much of the sketch in that when we wrote it that we'd done in his audition. I didn't remember, and I was like, "Oh, a lot of it." But we'd always go, "Just cross that line." I take something. He goes, "Wi-Fi." He goes, "Just cross that line." I'd say, and he'd go, "Wi-Fi 2 cents." I go, "Yeah, what would you do for a nickel?" We'd always do it. Why don't we write a sketch of it? We're always doing it. So we did, called One More Mission. And I play the head of a studio, and he plays an actor who's been a pilot in war movies, and he's gone nutty. Like he actually thinks he's in the war. So I got to fire him. There was a great and the part of that character I was playing was Lee Tracy from the movie Dinner at 8. And John Barrymore is spoofing himself. It's a great scene. And Lee Tracy's his agent. He's like, "You're through. Do you hear me? You're through. You'll never work in motion pictures or plays and theater." He says, "John Barrymore, you're through as an actor. You're through." He goes, "You know that part I got you in the play? It was the part of a dead body washed up on a beach for 3 days. And I had to beg him to give it to you. Why don't you just kill yourself? You're just taking up space." That was his agent. Then you get in the show business, you go, "Yeah, makes sense."
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Agent.
Yeah. When you were actually in show business and your agent says, "Well, I don't know, maybe you need to sell your house." So
Yeah, that's what they said to me.
I know you've heard you talk about that.
I'm
So
still
when
in
it
my
comes time to audition for SNL, obviously, we both know Dennis Miller. You know him a lot better and much longer. But I remember one of the times you talked to him about that audition, and I don't think he realized this, that you obviously got nervous heading into it, but I guess you kind of saw in the control room, you saw how he was approaching the audition, which of course was very
Yeah,
different
well,
because it's not like you did
first
characters.
we did audition in person, and I felt like
Yeah.
I blew it. Then the next day they put us on tape. They go, "Be here at 4:30." So I was there at 4:10. I'm
Nice.
always late, as you
Yeah.
see. I didn't want to be late. So I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And then I start nervous. Then I go, I got to calm down. So then I watched TV, and I saw a Humphrey Bogart movie, Big Sleep. I go, I'll watch that. Being there it was just like, this is that world those people live in. I just couldn't believe it. And then I started getting sleepy, and I didn't go on camera till like 4 hours later. I was waiting and waiting. So then I walked around, and then I saw the control room. I didn't even know it was there. And I saw Dennis, and he was so loose and relaxed. I go, "Oh, all right, I'll be like that."
And then the interesting thing is, he told me this, but he's also said it on some of the various shows that he's had, as he would point out, all of his shows that have been canceled. But he said on a number of shows that he didn't get hired for SNL, and you were going to do
No,
Weekend
I was
Update.
hired to do a Weekend Update.
Yeah.
And and they had these two guys in charge of it from Boston, and I kept trying to be funny. They go, no, don't be funny, just do it straight. So I think, and a week later, Lauren goes, John, Dennis is going to do update. You'll have plenty to do. I think they're the ones that like said, he can't do it. They ended up getting fired themselves. These two
Well,
guys, they were there for 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
3 years,
Okay.
3 years later, this guy that was fired from Update, Richard, he wrote a book. A book came out called Murder on the 17th Floor. And it was basically about, he was so angry that he was fired, he wrote a book about Lauren being pushed out of the window of his office. And it was, goes an executive producer of a late night sketch comedy show at Rockefeller Center in the 17th floor.
When you think back on
He was
that,
only there 3 weeks.
yeah, when you think back on that, obviously it's not that Weekend Update isn't something you could have done, but do you feel like you would have been
done it?
But do you feel like you would have been restricted in the amount of like characters and things you could have done?
Well, the point is, I could have done it, but
yeah,
you go, could you do what Dennis did? I go, well, no, I'm not him. I don't think like him. I don't write jokes like that. I would have done my own thing. I don't know what I would have done. The only thing I remember is, news. They go, this just in, da 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 da, right? So I thought I'd be doing the news, da da da, and someone hand me paper. This just in. The guy that
yeah.
I would have done whatever and been funny the way I'm funny. And they come, no. And I go, wasn't it a comedy show? You don't want me to be funny?
Well, the interesting thing is that first season that you were on SNL is it's such an odd mix of people. It was the first one that Lauren was back. It's like, when you go through like a band's discography, there's like there's one Aerosmith album that they didn't do with Joe Perry. You're like, what? How did that happen? And then there's this one year that obviously
the year I was on, I mean, the cast was crazy talented.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quaid, Robert Downey Jr., Joan Cusack, Denitra Vance, Terry Sweeney, and
of course,
Anthony
yeah.
Michael Hall.
Yeah.
Damon Wayans. And then Dennis and Nora and I. I mean, it was very talented cast, but and we had done a lot of good stuff, but they just kept slamming us. I remember a review came out in TV Guide, and it goes, "Oh, the show's no good." We'd already done 11 shows, but they only talked about the first 3. So, when the review came out, they didn't mention that at this point, the whole nation was imitating my liar character. That was working. There was a lot of good stuff, but it almost, I don't know. The reviews were so bad, so they almost were going to cancel the show. And and Brandon Tartikoff was the head of the network. He was going to cancel it, and his wife Lily said, "You can't do that to Lauren. You can't do that. You can't bring him back for when you're in this. Fire him."
Yeah,
so they said. So they let everybody go. I had no choice in the matter. They let everybody go except for Dennis and Nora and I. And then they said, "We want people you work well with." So I recommended Tim Stack and Phil Hartman and Tress McNeil and Stewart. They were the 4 best people at the Groundlings. I'd say to Lauren, "Hey, if you think I'm good, you should see Phil. He's a genius. He's amazing. He can do anything." And Lauren didn't want to hire him. I had to beg him. I go, "Come on."
Well,
and then
isn't it true that Phil actually didn't want it at first, though, right?
Phil turned it down.
Yeah.
And then he changed his mind and said yes. And I tried to convince him, "No, Phil, you got to do it. You got to do it." And then he changed his mind and said yes. So I went to him. I go, "So did you change your mind because I convinced you?" And he's like, "No." I go, "It wasn't me." "No, who was it? It was Joel Silver." Penny Marshall put us in the movie Jump a Jack Flash, and Joel produced it. And he said, Joel called him up and goes, "You're crazy not to do this. You're crazy. You have to do it." So Phil goes, "Okay."
Yeah, and for me personally, that's like the golden era for that show because that's when I would actually watch it. I mean, at first I had to record it on the VCR because it was on past my bedtime.
Had a background in comedy, just comedy, and everyone kind of knew each other. I mean, I knew Phil. I'd worked with Jan Hooks before on this thing, Playboy sketch show called 90 Minutes, I think. And then like Dana brought on Kevin. And then they both knew Whitney Brown from stand up. and they knew Victoria, so everyone kind of knew each other from something else. And Dennis and Dana knew each other, and Kevin, but everybody was like, Robert Downey was 20, Anthony Michael Hall was 17. Everybody now is like, by this point I was 29, everyone's like 29, 30, 31, 32. Victoria was a little younger. Phil was 37,
Yeah.
as was Randy Quaid. But it was weird though. I remember going there the second year and those guys weren't there, and it felt very strange. But I was thrilled that Phil was there.
Yeah, I think that your point is a good one. That obviously no one's going to say that Robert Downey Jr. isn't talented. It's just that wasn't a good spot for his talent to shine, And
Well, I disagree. I thought everybody was doing really well.
Okay.
So the cast was starting to gel and really work well together. And there were sketches, like there was a sketch where Tony Danza hosted, and it was like a boxing thing, and I was an announcer, and Anthony Michael Hall was in it, and he was brilliant, and remember talking to Whitney, go, God, Michael's so funny. Of course he was funny. He was hysterical,
Yeah.
And then Robert goes, I don't know, I was doing these weird things like, a guy in a suitcase and spine boy. He did of someone who had no spine. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. Well, clearly, Lauren and everyone felt like, people who were more, like you said, from the comedy background. I wanted to go back to one thing, though. You said that Dennis didn't really know you before that. And he's talked about the moment that
we were on the plane.
Right.
And they had like all these huge auditions. So from Los Angeles, they brought out for the final auditions 3 men and 3 women. The 3 men were myself, Dennis Miller, and Damon Wayans. And the women were Pam Madison, Jennifer Tilly, and Julie Brown, downtown Julie Brown. Julie, the prom queen's got a gun.
Right, the redhead Julie Brown.
I didn't know Dennis or Damon. And I was sitting next to Dennis. And he goes, what do you do? I go, I have this liar character. And Dennis always goes, okay, yeah, this chimp's got no chance.
I'm going to smoke this guy.
Very good, very close friends. I love the guy.
Sure, of course.
And yeah, and then I was doing an update, and I said, hello, I'm Tommy Flanagan. He goes, Lovitz, isn't it Flanagan? I go, yeah, but he's lying.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. Is that's when he realized
he can't even get his own name straight. He lies too much. He goes, he can't even get his own name straight. I go, yeah. And that's when he went, oh my God. So he thought that was like brilliant.
That's when he realized the genius of the character. And I think the way he tells it is that in dress rehearsal, he said, ladies and gentlemen, Tommy Flanagan. And then you had to tell him, it's like, no, his name is Tommy Flanagan, because he lies about even that. And then it was sort of like the light bulb. And it obviously having a character stand out.
I don't know that it's genius. I saw old movies and a guy being lying, going, yeah, that's the ticket. And then I had a friend I liked who later became a girlfriend. A girl, I go, she goes, I like a guy with a fat wallet. And I go, well, my dad does have just had 15 oil wells come in. She goes, yeah, right. I go, well, he's a pathological liar. And I was working as a messenger, and this guy was lying his head off. And it was very naive. I always believe people, whatever they say. But this guy was lying so bad. It was so obvious. It was so ridiculous. And then I thought and then we had to do a thing in the Groundlings on a panel called, where you'd say your name and what you do. So I did my character. Hello, my name is Tommy Flanagan. I'm a member of Pathological Liars Anonymous. In fact, I'm the president of that organization. And then the funny part is, like, he thinks he's getting away with it, and then people laugh, and then he's like, oh, you buy it. Oh,
yeah.
He's an idiot, So, and then they go, how long have you been lying? The audience has questions. I go, I don't know what you're talking about. I thought that would be funny. They go, you said you were a liar. I go, no, I didn't. You just said it. I go, no, never said that. And Robin Schiff, who's the Groundlings, she goes, no. She goes, John, you set it up. Just stay in character. Just answer anything. You set it up so perfect. I was like, oh. So she goes, all right, let's try it. She goes, what's your favorite sport? And I went, bowling. Right, he's lying about it. I went, oh my God, I didn't even see it. And then I got in the Groundlings and I wrote a monologue like a guy at AA saying, I'm drink, here's my story. And that's not funny, but I thought, what if it was Pathological Liars Anonymous? And he starts lying about how he became a liar. And I go, God, that's funny.
Yeah. So to have that stand out from SNL, especially at a point where, you're having TV Guide articles written, and then the
Well, I
show
did it
goes,
the first time, like I did that on the Tonight Show, and then I did it on the same thing on SNL, and then after that, Lauren goes, "Why don't you write it with? Let's do it again." But Robert Smigel, the Triumph Insult Dog, goes, "John." The next week goes, "This guy just came to Lauren's office, an electrician, and said that liar thing's the funniest thing I've seen in years." And Lauren was like, "Oh." So Lauren goes, "Why don't we do it again?" And he goes, "John, why don't you write it with A. Whitney Brown?" And I was like, "Okay." And I was, thank God, because I didn't know what else to do with the character, So Whitney, I always give him credit. After that, it was Whitney and I together, which it was, and Whitney really helped me expand the character, and it was great. I learned how to write jokes from Whitney. It was brilliant, and I was good at editing. And he goes, "God, you're great at editing." I go, well, "You're great at writing jokes." And we're learning from each other. It was great.
yeah. And I mean, I think that obviously you need sort of, yes, you need the talented on camera people, but the people behind the scenes having those
Whitney
unique
really helped
visions.
me, expand the character, what to do with it next.
Yeah.
Totally, 100%.
Well, and Smigel, I heard him talk once about why Triumph, the insult comic dog, has that accent. And there had been a sketch on Conan before he ever did that one, and all those dogs had the similar accent. And he has this really logical explanation. He's like, "Well, I think that all dogs are immigrants. They're obviously not from here. They're coming from somewhere else, and so they all talk like that." And his explanation is like more thoughtful than what
Well,
I'm
that's in his
summarizing as.
mind. I mean,
Yeah,
he's a great writer, and
yeah.
that's his imagination.
Right, exactly. So you have all that, and I obviously the show
Don't tell
has.
Robert. Dogs.
So if your dog Jerry Bruckheimer III were to start speaking, he'd
Well,
probably sound
I
like
guess,
that as well.
according to Robert, he's a pug Chihuahua, so he's Chinese and Mexican, born in America.
And so from
But he
that
doesn't
that
talk like
second
that.
that
He
second
talks
season you're
like
on, one of the things
he's on.
that stood out, at least for me, just watching the show, I was excited that William Shatner was going to be on, and you have one of the best moments and one of the best known sketches from that era, which is he's at the Star Trek convention and he tells everybody to get a life, and you don't even have a line. He just says to you in the audience, "And you, have you ever even kissed a girl?" And you just
What
put
do
your
you?
head
No,
down.
he goes, "How old are you? What are you, 30?" I go, he goes, "Have you ever even kissed a girl?" And it wasn't in the script, but I just did. I went, "Have you?" So I asked, "Have you ever even kissed a girl?" And I
Have
go,
you ever even kissed a girl? Just put your head down so slowly. And I grew up a big Star Trek fan, and I love that. I have a
let me
friend
tell you,
who's
they have back then when I did it. If somebody hosted, they used to be on the show like Chevy Chase, or Bill Murray, or they were a giant movie star. Once in a while, you'd have a TV star like Ted Danson, Woody Harrelson, but you had to be the number one show on
yeah.
television. So it's only these giant, stars, and so every week they'd have somebody. This is about 2 years in, and Dennis, was on Update, and he goes, "Why aren't I in sketches?" I go, "Well, Dennis, you don't hang out on Tuesday nights. Like, hang out and put in the time and be with everybody, and you would, but you're not here. So no one's thinking of you."
Yeah. And
So,
and
so
and
he would
then when
always,
he's in
so
sketches,
at read
it's
through, we'd sit around the table, and whoever it was, you'd see, I'd look at Dennis, he's like, because he'd have nothing to do for 3 hours. You know what I
well,
mean?
and that's why he wrote Coco Mishu and LeBay.
Right.
The
So, but he'd have nothing to do. So he'd always be kind of grumpy. So
yeah,
then William Shatner hosted, and we all grew up, Star Trek, it was huge, and William Shatner was huge. So like it's William Shatner, and I'm like Dana, I'm like, "It's Kirk, it's Kirk." We were like thrilled. I look at Dennis, right, who's always like, I look at Dennis, and he's like this. He was so excited. We all were though, but even
yeah, of
Dennis
course.
was so excited. William Shatner, we were just like, "It's Kirk." We couldn't believe it, and he was really nice. And I still run into him and see him. He had these horse shows I went to, and I'll see him and stuff, like autograph shows, which are become like Comic-Con stuff, and
Yeah.
he'll be there, and he goes, "John, sit down, let's have lunch." And of course, it's him, but I'm thrilled. It's Kirk.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And
And I mean,
he's super nice. And it's just, yeah, we were just, oh, we were thrilled. The funniest, I'll tell you a story. So he did the show. He made it look so easy. And I said, how do you do that? He goes, just do it. Because they would put you, they would stress the hell out of you. And did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do that? And you'd be like this. So he goes, just do it. So I thought, all right, the next week, I go, all right, what would he do? I go, what are they really asking me to do? Walk and talk. Like, go walk from here to here, this spot to this spot, and there's a little piece of tape, your mark on the ground. Walk from here to behind the couch and go blah, blah, blah. So I boiled it down to that. And I go, I'm not going to stress myself out this week. I was convinced that I would do the show and would not be funny because I didn't, stress myself out all week. So I did the show. I was convinced people are going to go, what are you doing? You're just walking through it. I didn't walk through it, but I just did it with no stress. And at the end of the show, I go, well, I wasn't less funny and I wasn't more funny. I was the same. And I went, what have I been putting myself through every week? And after that, it was a breeze. And I still did all the work and I would learn my lines, which no one else would really do. And
how speaking of that,
and it
and
was
it's
just, I
such a
got so
it's
relaxed that, it just became super fun. I was like,
from a performing standpoint, it seems like it's not like anywhere else because there are definitely hosts, and I've heard later cast members talk about not learning your lines because they change them so much on the cue cards. Because they're just changing
well,
the
this what
joke.
happened. My first show, my first sketch, was I nervous? Oh my God, was I nervous? I'm not going to kid you. I was like, and it was a talk show, and I remember Terry went, and then or someone, Denitra and Nora, and then it was my turn, and I was so nervous. They looked so relaxed with the first
Yeah.
show. Like, oh my God, they're going, 20 million people are watching me right now. I go, oh no, it's 3 hours later in LA, in the coast. Okay, that cuts out 10 million. But I was so nervous, and Madonna was the host, and then later on, I did a sketch with her, and there's cue cards, and so I was Prince Charles and she was Lady Diana. And she took my line on the cue card, not on purpose. She made a mistake.
Right.
She read my line. That was next. And I saw that. I went, ugh. So all my training, all my experience of 13 years of doing plays and hundreds of scenes, maybe I don't know, kicked in. So I went, so I took her line that she missed and then said my next line and kind of combined them and then went into the next thing, And I just it took my attention off myself and onto the sketch. So that took away nervousness. But anyway, Penny Marshall had befriended me. She'd been on this film shoot. The first thing I did for SNL, like a week before with Madonna or 2 weeks before, befriended me. So she called me up. She goes, hey, learn your lines. I go, why? Can you tell I'm reading the cue card? She goes, yes, your eyes are darting. I go, oh, I think I could get away with it.
Yeah.
So after that,
Right.
I learned my lines. Now, if it was right to camera, you didn't have to learn them. You had to know them, but you didn't have to memorize because it didn't. You could read it and look the same as if you're just saying it, because you had to, budget your time because it was just so much to do. But I would learn them,
Right.
and then they would make changes. So I would write notes in the meeting. I was also like, I noticed the only guy that's writing notes. I go, what are they doing? So I'd write the order of the sketches. There were so many notes, I couldn't remember them all. So
Yeah.
I write them down what Lauren said. He'd give the notes. And then right before a sketch, I'd look at the notes and go, okay. And then go do the sketch.
So obviously,
And sometimes, I use the card sometimes, but mostly I would memorize my lines.
Right. And then obviously, there are some characters that are predicated on not knowing what's on the cards. Like specifically, I'm thinking of Bill Hader's Stefan character that John Mulaney would write for him. And Bill wouldn't know the punchline. So you can see him reading ahead and start laughing and trying to, and
oh, I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, that's that he would he would like save the best jokes for the live show. But I know that one of the things that at least Lauren in particular seemed to not want was, obviously if something goes wrong, it's fine, but not intentional, like ad-libbing or trying to make each other laugh, because he was always like, this isn't
Well,
the
no,
Carol
it's
Burnett
called
show.
breaking character.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do that because we're not the Carol Burnett show. We don't.
Yeah.
But when you break character, the sketch is over. Now it's no longer about what's the story of the sketch. It's about people, the actors, trying not to laugh.
Yeah.
And so it ruins the sketch, And so one time what happened to us, we were doing, or Nora Dunn was doing this character, Pat Stevens, and she was interviewing, it was Phil and Kevin Neal and I, Tarzan, Tonto, and Frankenstein.
Right.
So the idea is just, absurd and funny. So, but anyway, we're doing the sketch, and then Phil, as Frankenstein, also he goes, ha ha ha, and we're like, what? And then about 15 seconds later, he just loses it, and he's just laughing hysterically and crying. So then you can't not laugh because you're like, what's going on? And then you're like, and he won't stop. And then I'm like, this trying my arm and my face not laugh, and we're all just like dying. But Phil just stopped. So after the sketch, I said, Phil, what happened? Because nothing had happened. I go, what happened? What was so funny? And he said, well, I was just thinking how ridiculous the sketch was, and it made me laugh. And then I stopped laughing, and then I thought of all the people watching the show at home sing Frankenstein laugh like that, and I just made me laugh. I just lost it. And then on Monday, Lauren goes, "Oh, I'm all right. Well, that happens, Now, if I had done that, he probably would have said, "Do it again, you're fired," But Phil did it, and he was okay.
So over the few years that you're on, obviously you hone some great recurring characters. We talked about Master Thespian. When you would do them with Jon Lithgow, that would probably, just me personally as a fan, those were always, that back and forth was always the most fun of them.
Yeah, the first time I wrote the sketch, I was supposed to do it with Bronson Pinchot, and then we rehearse all week, and then it's on dress. And then I remember Lauren goes, Bronson doesn't want to do the sketch. He thinks it's a high school sketch. I'm like, fuck him. No, it isn't.
Fuck you, Balky.
So, yeah. So then the next week, and then Lauren goes, like, why don't you do it with Jon Lithgow? And I'm like, oh, it's good enough for Jon Lithgow,
Yeah.
And I think Lauren, one time he goes, don't worry about it. Jon Lithgow will be better with it. So I did it with him the first time, and it was great. Then, and I remember thinking, John's a great actor, of course, the nicest guy in the world. The first time we did it, it's a certain style. He got it pretty close. I don't know if he totally got it, but he did. But the second time, it was like he totally got it. We were totally equal. And then we did it. He came back to host a third time. I go, do you want to do it again? I go, you don't have to. He goes, no, I'd love to. The third time we did it, I thought he went nuts. I go, he's doing it better than me. You know what I mean? Because he didn't,
yeah.
It's a new, you're trying to explain it, And of course, he was great all three times, but I noticed he was a little behind. But the second, and then the third, he was just like, he just went nuts. And that was this. And then they did Third Rock from the Sun. His character's Baudelaire, and I went up, and that's what he was doing on that show. And I went, they stole the characters. And I went up to him, I go, hey, Third Rock from the Sun, nice Baudelaire. He goes, yeah, right.
It was interesting that it seemed like Tom Hanks would guest host every year because he had recurring characters too. He had Mr. Short-Term Memory, but then also the one that he would do with you, which I don't know what it was called, but the two guys who were always down on their luck. It was like a girl.
Yeah, Robert Smigel wrote it. I think it's called Girl Watchers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was always a lot of like hello and
goodbye. Yeah, Robert goes, you like hello, goodbye, hello. Good. And the girl would buy hello. Goodbye. Wouldn't give me the time of day. Then Tom was like, this head is way too big for this body. And I go, and these eyebrows come together in a most unappealing way. And that was a fun sketch to do. Yeah, Tom was a great host. When
Yeah,
I
I
got
mean,
the show,
obviously,
when I got
with
the
the
show, get this, when I got the show, Al Franken says to me, he goes, John, you were everything we didn't want in one person. I go, oh, thanks a lot.
Jesus.
I go, I go, but you were funny. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, we wanted like a Tom Hanks kind of guy, like a lead man. Thank you.
I think I also heard you. I can't remember where it was, but there I think was an interview where you talked about it. It was when you were on with Carvey and Spade on their podcast. You talked about how there was a producer who said all these people are going to break out from the show, saying it to
Dinah
you.
Miner,
Yeah, but
who
not
I'm
you.
close friends with Dinah. She
Yeah.
goes, my first, she goes, here's who we think are going to become the big breakout stars. And she mentions like 5 people, not me. She mentions 5 people. And I look at her, I go, I'm on the show, right? You're saying like you're basically not you. Of course,
Yeah.
I was but I was completely unknown. I wasn't saying like I'm going to break out, but what it's kind of rude. Like, well, not we think these 5, not you. Like I go, hello, I'm in the cast too. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
rude.
And then yet,
I always tease her about it, and she laughs.
and then yet, you were the one in that
Yeah.
season finale where everybody is left to die in the fire. Lauren says, "No, Lovitz, go wait in my limo." So it was like,
Well, yeah. What happened was the show was just getting slammed so much that they go, let's just slam ourselves. So they wrote that sketch. I didn't write it. I didn't, And on a Thursday, I remember rehearsing, and Terry Sweeney was really mad. And I said, well, Terry, I go, there's no fire. It's not real. It's just a sketch. And then the next day I thought about it. And I go, well, what if you were going to like be put in there? And would you, I go, so I went up to him and I go, I get it now. I get why you're upset.
yeah.
I had nothing to do with it. I mean, I did not know if I was going to be hired back.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I had no idea. And I remember in the summer, I go, am I going to be hired back? He goes, yes. I go, well, I don't know. You guys don't say anything. They always kept everything and so vague and kept you guessing. Remember, like 30 years later, Horatio Sands, what's it like? It's like auditioning every year. Or Bobby Moynihan, it's like auditioning every week. You never know if you have the job. I go, oh, it's the same.
Yeah, no, I mean,
they keep everything vague. They don't let you know. You're always like on edge. Are they going to hire me back? And they're not going to, I don't know.
Yeah, no, and it's like if you look at people who only have the 1 year or partial year, like Louis C.K. was a writer there. He felt like it never worked for him, and yet obviously,
Oh, was he? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like 1 year, and then you have people who just don't gel in the cast. Like when you were on, like Ben Stiller was on for like 3 weeks or something, right? And then
6 weeks. He didn't get fired. He quit.
Right. Okay. So, but then years.
I would do. I remember Mike Myers got on the show and he couldn't get stuff on, and he came to my office. He goes, "How do I get stuff on the show?" I said, "Mike, listen to me. Don't quit telling your ideas to like Jim Downey or Al Franken." I go, "Don't tell them." I go, "They're just gonna knock it down."
Yeah.
I'm telling you, just write something that you think's funny and then do it at read through. Don't tell anybody. Don't say it at the meeting because people have good. They have good. But I remember saying, "Don't quit asking them." I go, "They're just going to go, no, no, no. Just write what you think's funny." Because at the meeting, everyone's short-term memory is really good. If you say, "I have an idea for a sketch," and then you give the joke of it, at read through 2 days later, no one's laughing because as soon as you say it, they go, "Oh, I remember that." So they already know what the joke's going to be. They don't laugh. So you'd end up just saying stuff. "Oh, I'm writing a sketch about a fish and a cat."
Right.
And then you don't write that at all.
Right.
You write something else. You don't give it away at the Monday meeting. What are you working on? I'm working. One time Lauren got really mad at me because they goes, "Oh, John, what do you got?" I go, "I got nothing." Yeah. But I didn't have any ideas.
Right.
I really didn't. I didn't know what to say. I go, "I got nothing."
Yeah. So obviously there were you had a number of characters that you would get to do. Some of them were on more than others. Some of them that I think always made me laugh were.
Oh wait, you want to hear another funny one?
Yeah, absolutely.
So after a while, they started writing sketches of it. Everything was like, it was only I'm Jewish. I go, "You guys, I can play other things, And then it was always like, you're an idiot. You're this, you're that. I got so mad that everything was like an idiot, and you're stupid, and you're Jewish, and you're dumb. And I said, just so, I think they did that to Pete Davidson, which he goes, it's like they're just making fun of me. I don't want to be here, So it's kind of like that, because they get jealous when you're super funny. They're very weird. The writers were very competitive against the cast. So when Lauren goes, "Do you have any ideas?" I go, "Yeah, I have an idea for a sketch. Yeah, okay. There's me, and on my shoulder there's a bucket, and it's full of shit. And everyone's like, got to guess. It's a game show. What's the difference between John and the bucket of shit? It's the fucking bucket." And no one laughed. And I look at Phil. I was so mad. Phil was crying laughing. He was crying. Because he knew how mad I was.
Oh.
I was not in that meeting, and everyone would say other ideas and go, anyone else? And I go, wait. Lauren go, yes. I go, what are your, Lauren? I go, what are your ideas? And Dane would go like, what are you doing, you idiot? Like, it's not going to help you to.
Yeah, to make the boss mad. A couple of
that's what we are. We're a comedian. What are you?
Right. They're there to make people laugh.
Your ideas.
Yeah.
Now, and I wanted say that because they wouldn't pay us to write on the show, and Lauren was, writer on the highest paid writer on the show. He never wrote anything.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, all right. What are your ideas? That doesn't help.
Yeah. So when you would develop characters that were at least recurring, I always liked Frenchie because he was supposed to be so unlikable.
Yeah.
And annoying.
After
man.
I did it, Dennis Miller goes, "Hey, Lovitz, my wife's, father thinks you're hysterical," but he goes, "That Frenchie thing, what was that? That's the worst thing I ever saw." So I never did it again. I was like, oh.
That sounds like Dennis.
And the thing is, well, I'm sure his father-in-law did that, but that was my attempt at anti-humor.
Right.
Like, in other words, like what David Letterman kind of humor would do. I was trying to do that. Like, it was just stupid, and also make fun of the French because they, so it was like everything was like, well, I had on a beret and a curly Q mustache, shirt from France, and hello, my name is Frenchie. I'm from France. Like, no shit.
Yeah, I remember.
And everything was like just, very charming and just say the most horrible stuff.
Yeah, and then he's like, everything good? Good.
Yeah, everything good. Anyway, today the other day I was on a picnic in Alaska. Beautiful country, beautiful. And had a lovely picnic and some chicken and wine. And then I clubbed a baby seal to death. And then, what? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend anyone. It's just that, I was minding my own business and the baby seal came up and bit me on the toe for no reason at all, But don't feel bad. He put up quite a fight. I'm Frenchie. Everything good. I'm French. They could be very rude.
Of course.
Anyway.
And I can't believe that was only on once because I remember it so well. I can't believe you only did it one time.
Yeah. What? I'm sorry. Did I offend anyone? Well, I'm just saying, if they were superior, why are they always the ones fighting for their rights? Hmm?
Yeah. Well, as funny as Dennis is, he would be wrong a couple of times because he's talked to Carvey about how, he thought that his grumpy old man character was going to eat shit. And he was like, and Carvey was like, oh yeah, watch. And,
that one. I mean, that Robert wrote it. We did it together, Dana and I, the first time. We went ahead, the next time he's doing long. I go, what happened to me? I go, all right, Dana, fine.
Yeah. But and then I just watching at home. There was one time,
made it up, but he and Robert wrote it.
Yeah,
but we did one time the first time. It was fun.
In Sandler's first season, I don't even remember what the character was, but he did one of those features on Weekend Update. And he does a whole thing, and Adam stuff was always weird and a little out there. And he's done, and Dennis just looks in the camera and goes, "Too long." And this is on the live show because I saw it at home. This wasn't like in a rehearsal. And you're like, Jesus Christ.
No, well, Dennis was very territorial about update. So you'd go on to rehearse the thing. Goes, do you have to really read this? I go, Dennis, it's part of the show. Can you just let me read it once? Yes. By the way, I love Dennis.
Yeah, of course I do too.
He's my friend, but the show is so competitive,
Yeah.
Like, come on, because he felt like this was the only thing he got to do. So when other people come in, he's like, Jesus, I got to share this. You have to read it. I go, yeah, I need to go through it, Dennis. It's going to be on the show. The cards, I got to make sure they're right. Thank you. Can I just do it once? Yeah, I'm going to rehearse my bit that's going to be on the show. This is rehearsal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I mean that was
Dennis was always he could be, he was also very supportive. We were very close friends. And at one time I was doing Annoying Man, and then he goes, yeah, and I was like eating chocolate or something. He goes, I can't tell where Annoying Man starts and Lovitz stops. Something like that. Lovitz stops and Annoying Man starts. And then I licked him on the face, and I started laughing because he had a big chocolate mark on his face. And he didn't know.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because that they, when just one person's doing update, they basically have 15 to 20 minutes carved out, and then you bring the characters in.
And also Dana would always point out, because all the hit characters are directly to camera.
Yeah,
that's why everyone back then we go, oh, let's do talk shows. So I came up with Harvey Fierstein, and then and then Harvey complained about it. He didn't like it.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, I remember he had a talk show called Plug Away that was designed to just have the plugs. He would just be like, plug away.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
I'm Harvey Fierstein. Welcome to my talk show. Plug away.
So and
but that also referred to something else.
It might have. My understanding is that you didn't want to leave SNL, but then by that point you'd already done League of Their Own and some other movies.
No, I hadn't done it. What happened was, my first year, the liar character became big, and I was supposed to do a movie of that, and it fell through. I was supposed to do it with Lauren, and the whole thing, for whatever reasons, it didn't happen, and it was very disappointing. So now 5 years later, I got a chance to do another movie, Mom and Dad Saved the World. So I was going to do that and League of Their Own, and then that summer, and then come back to the show. So that was going to be like, all right, I'm on the show with movies out.
Right.
It'll be great. And then Mom and Dad, League of Their Own didn't happen that summer. And then Mom and Dad Saved the World. They go, oh, you got to we can't work around your show schedule. I said, well, I'm not leaving the show. But I went to Lauren. I go, can you let me miss like 2 shows? They offered me to kind of come back for 2 years. So he goes, no, you can't miss shows. I go, Lauren, I don't want to miss shows, but they won't work around it. He goes, well, you can go fly back and forth like Belushi and Chevy or Dan. I go, I'm happy to do that. I said, they won't do it.
Yeah.
And I go, look, I didn't get to do this. Can you please just let me? I go, I'll make them up. Add them on the end. Don't pay me. I said to my manager, I'll sign up for another 5 years. I go, let me. So they go, well, Lauren said you could miss shows the following year. I go, but I have this now.
Yeah.
And I was so mad. And then they called me up and said, I didn't want to leave. And I said to Danny Aiello, a good friend, what do you think? You got movies. It's got to take the shot. I go, I know. And then they called me and they said, we're going to make these 40-foot statues of whoever plays the part. I'm like, ooh, 40-foot statues of me. And I thought the script, it was hysterically funny. I thought they wrote it for me, but they hadn't. But I go, this is just so funny. It was very silly, like all my characters, they're all comical, arrogant idiots. And of course, Dennis goes, yeah, hello. Not you idiot. But it's just the funniest thing, an arrogant idiot. And this is nothing funnier to me.
Yeah.
So, and that's what this character was. He was the head of a planet of idiots, and he was just a moron, but he thought he was brilliant. So, an unaware, arrogant idiot. This is the funniest thing to me. So anyway, I was mad. I couldn't miss it, so I left. And then every time I was in New York, they go, oh, Al Franken would go, oh, you're in New York. Can you come and do a sketch? Okay. So they kept calling me to come back, And And I go, Lauren, how's it going? He goes, oh, Jon, there's a big gap, meaning me,
Right.
And then I'd show up for a third time. I go, hey, Lauren, how's the gap? And I didn't know what to do. And then at one point, Brad goes, you can come back. Do you want to go back? Oh, yeah. And then Dana goes, there's 20 guys in the show. Like, you barely get on. I go, I don't want to go back to that pressure and the end. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, by that point, they'd added.
Then when Dennis left,
like, yeah. By the end of that season, they'd added like Schneider and Spade and
everybody,
Sandler, maybe
but
even
Dennis
Tim Meadows.
called me. No, Lauren, my manager called me back and he goes, Lauren called. He wants you to know that it's just a joke. They love you. And I go, what's just a joke?
Yeah.
Well, you got to watch the show tonight. It's just a joke. They love you. I go, but what's the joke? He goes, I didn't say. So, hold on my phone. So, I'm watching the show, and it's the cold opening, and it's Dennis and Lauren. And Lauren goes, so you're really leaving? Yeah. He goes, you're really going to leave the show? He goes, yep, I'm going, Lauren. And then Lauren goes, you're not going to keep coming back like Lovitz, are you? He's pathetic. And I went, and of course, the audience didn't laugh at because they liked me. And I knew they liked me. They're not, and they're just going to go, why are you making fun of one of your own? I was so fun. I was like, that's fun. And I found out Rob Schneider wrote the joke. Of course, I confronted. He goes, I know. Yeah, you did, Rob. We're friends, now it's like,
no,
30,
I know.
30 years
but,
later.
But then, of course, after
I was like, fuck them. I go, they keep asking me to come back, and then they say that.
Yeah. But then after Dennis left,
one time Al goes, can you come do Harry Hanukkah? I'm like, no. And then I found out they were paying me, like, they go, we'll pay you $5,000, which is a lot of money, just to do that. I go, okay. And then I found out that I've jammed back, and they're paying her 10.
Oh.
I was like, you know what? You're going to pay me this. Well, she didn't know. I go, I don't give a shit. You don't do, that's not right. So then they go, okay, we'll pay you 10, but if the sketch doesn't get on air, we'll only pay you 5. I'm like, no.
Yeah, that's not up to me.
Now, it sounds like a lot of money, your money, but you have to, when we got the show, we're all dead broke.
Yeah.
Dead broke. When I got the show, after my first year, I didn't have any money left.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that, by average everyday people standards, you hear what SNL cast members make a week. It's a lot of money, but by showbiz standards, it's 20 weeks out of the year. And it's not that much.
It was a fortune to me when I got the show, what they were paying me. Yeah. I had to check for the most I ever had in my bank account was believe me, I'm very aware. I lived on, $600 a month for 7 years. So they're paying me $3,500 a week, which was like a fortune. Yeah. And to me, and I remember I was depositing $5,000 in the bank from checks I had. It was so much money that I got nauseated. Because I've only been living month to month.
Yeah.
For 7 years. So it was just, but New York was very expensive.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what I was going to say earlier is, after Dennis left, the year after he was gone, they had Carvey doing a cooking show. It was called Cooking with Dennis Miller because, he had his late night show and he was having trouble booking guests. So he was in like a booking war with Jay Leno. So they did a whole sketch about that. He's like, yeah, I can't. Galloping Gourmet's getting all my guests. And, so Carvey's out there making fun of him at like a brutal time in his career. And it's just like, I guess that's what they do.
Robert would go after people when they were suffering.
Yeah. Although I guess nothing's funnier than,
in fact, I was in the studio. I gotta be honest with you. I was there at the show when they did that sketch and I was watching it. Okay. And I was crying, laughing, but I go, this is like the meanest. I just popped in my head. I remember thinking, this is the meanest and funniest thing I've ever seen. It was so funny, but it was really mean.
Right. Agreed.
Dennis. So if Dennis was upset, I go, Well, I would understand why. It was really mean.
Yeah.
But it was so fun because Dana just sounds exactly like him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was very mean. It was so inside, a lot of the stuff that nobody would know what it meant unless you knew Dennis and what was going on and knew him really well. It was below the belt. But that's
Yeah.
poverty. I go, it is mean, right? It's super mean. Yeah, but it's funny. I go, I know, but it's mean.
Well, nothing tops when Eddie
But I'm
Murphy
watching it
called.
laughing.
Nothing tops when Eddie Murphy called the offices when Spade had said, "Oh, look, a falling star," and it was a picture of Eddie Murphy. And I remember
Yeah,
Spade talking about it for years. Like Chris Rock would be like, "He still hates you." I
mean.
think that they're
Because you
fine
go on your
now.
show, you go, why is the show going after me? I was a part of it. And now they're going after me
Yeah.
I didn't do anything. We would go after people that deserved it.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't go after people that were down. They would go after jerks that were down, that were bullies.
Yeah.
They would go after
Yeah, and it was a while before you were were you not on again until
Carson when they did Carcinio? That was Robert again,
Yeah. Oh yeah, that Johnny didn't the Carcinio one bothered him when Dana and Phil
But in
would
Robert's mind, he's like, no, these guys are giant. Who am I? I'm nobody. What's the big deal? But it's mean. It's funny, but it's mean.
Right. Yeah. Which
and I guess thought Carcinio was.
I thought Carcinio was pretty funny. Yeah. So did you not really do anything for a while? Like I know you guest hosted. I was actually I was an intern when you guest hosted. So I was at the dress rehearsal for that one. You did, it was like 1997, right?
Of like, Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, I think you guest hosted in like 97. Yeah. Yeah. So, but
I was doing movies. But Lauren was mad at me for leaving.
Right.
And I'm like, but everybody left.
Yeah. Right.
I said to Marcy Klein, but everybody left. Yeah, but you were first. I go.
Yeah. And you had guys who were on for.
I'll sign up for 5 more years.
Right. You would have.
Let me just miss 2. The next year after me, Mike Myers, Austin Powers coming, so they let him miss 10 shows.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some guys stick around. I know Tim Meadows was
but
there.
Also, if Lauren said, well, do you understand why I didn't want you to miss shows now? I'd go, yeah, I get it. The show.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, because I go, yeah, I'm getting the movies because of the show. So in retrospect, if the same thing happened, I would say the producer called Lauren and work it out. If not, I think it was a mistake that I left? Yes, I do.
Interesting, because but it's not like you didn't make plenty of good stuff after that, but you would have liked to have had them work it out where you could have done both, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it, in retrospect, I think it was a mistake.
Yeah.
But also, he goes, maybe I should have let him in. Oh, no. In fact, when I went back to this year, he goes, I go, Lauren, he goes, there's a gap. I go, well, you wouldn't let me miss shows. He goes, oh, you could have missed shows. I was like,
right. But he had said the opposite.
I go, what? I said, Lauren, if I could have missed shows, I'd be here.
Yeah. Do you think you would have been like, I know Tim Meadows was on for 12 years and now Keenan's been on, I think literally, I'm not exaggerating. I think he's been on for 20. Yeah. Keenan's been on for 20
more.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
I didn't want to leave. In fact, he was mad at me before that. And then he goes, let's just do these shows. And he was really mad. I don't know. And the next day, Bernie goes, I talked to him. Everything's fine. I go, no, he's really mad. No, everything's fine. I go, what? Then some next morning, he goes, John, you want to ride with Paul Simon? He's going back to LA in the water jet. I go, sure. I go, I thought you were mad at me. No. I go, all right. Because everything's fine. I go, okay. Because it was uncomfortable for that week, and then everything was fine. I felt weird. And then I was doing the show, and I remember sitting there going, oh, man, I am so happy. This is the best. I know how to do the show. A lot of guys, even they, every time I went on, I'd throw up. I go, not me. I couldn't wait to get, when that music started, I go, oh, this is why, it's so stressful all week, because we get to do the show. It was fun. I wasn't stressed out. I wanted to show off. I'm like, don't you like acting and doing comedy? This is live TV. This is fucking fun. It would be frustrating if you missed a joke because you couldn't do it again. Like,
Yeah.
fuck, I missed that laugh, But I was like, because I had it after William Shatner. I tried. I go, oh man, I got how to do this now. This is easy as shit. Became easy for me.
Yeah.
It
And then
became
you're
easy
able,
because I'd done so many.
right. I don't want to keep you all day. I do want
No,
to
I
talk
don't
to
have a
you.
life. What else?
One of the things I wanted to ask you about, though, is I remembered this really well, and I looked for it and rewatched it probably for the first time in 30 years on YouTube, which was the Please Watch the Jon Lovitz special, which I remembered really well, which was a live show that you did for Fox, right? You and Alan Zweibel did that,
And so
right?
yeah. And after I did it, they go, "What do you want to do? Do you want to do more?" I go, "I want to do a series." Well, we don't want to do a series, but you can do more specials. I don't know. And of course, retrospect, I go, "Why?" And I go, "Yes."
Yeah, right.
What's wrong with me? I don't know why I do that.
Yeah, well, yeah, because
It was a
there could
very
have been
hard
a
show to do. It was a lot of work, but it was fun. And in retro, I should have said, "Yeah, it's too hard to do it every week. Let's do specials."
right,
But I
and
love doing
then
it.
the
It
way
was like
network,
making my own SNL. It was a live show, but a long
yeah,
sketch.
and the turnover with network
Did well in the
executives,
ratings.
there could have
Did well
been
enough. They wanted
somebody,
to do more.
the next person in charge of the network might have been like, yeah, let's do it as a series. But yeah, so doing a live show like that, and having that kind of control, and obviously working with, I've talked to Alan Zweibel, obviously, original SNL writer, also co-created It's Gary Shandling show. So that process to put that half hour, and I guess it's really 22 minutes, put that live on TV. How much time did you spend leading into that special?
A month.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, and there were obviously, some big name cameos in the audience. Rob Reiner and Ed O'Neill shows up
Well, I
for a
was making
second.
fun of myself because everyone goes, Saturday Night Live, I just do it to get movies. So let's just say that.
Yeah.
Like just do it. The premise was I'm doing a live play, but I have, directors in the audience with phones on the back of the chairs in front of them. So if they see anything they like, they can offer me a part in their next movie.
Yeah. And then of course everybody
What's up
keeps
with
calling
they're offering parts to everybody but me.
everybody else. Yeah. And there was what I assume would have been a recurring bit if you had done more, the
It was me
Live
making
Through
fun
Me,
of myself.
where you make out with Carol Alt.
Oh, that part?
Yeah, so I feel like that probably would have been something you would have done repeatedly if you had done more of them. Pick somebody new, like
Yeah.
live through me, which I
Live
just thought was
through me.
great. Yeah, that
Yeah, it
was.
was ridiculous. The
I
whole thing
know.
was silly. Yeah, and then I had Ed. I do this. Yeah, it was a fun. The best one of the, well, I would do like a like two lines dramatically, and then get mad and go into the audience, lift up Rob Reiner's phone, like, "Hello, you like to see that?" And then we did a spoof of The Godfather, and James Caan heard about it. He goes, and I knew him, and he goes, "I want to be in it because I'll get Robert Duvall." Because we had Alex Rocco,
Alex Rocco, yeah.
Mo Green. Oh God, when I saw it, I was so thrilled. And the three of them, I get to spoof The Godfather with three of the guys that were in it.
Yeah.
For me, when and there's Mo Green's at the table, and I roll the dice, and it hits him in the eye, and he's like, "Oh no, not the other eye," and blood comes out. And then you cut to Robert Duvall and James Caan in the audience high-fiving. I was like, this is my favorite part of the show, of the whole
that
thing.
yeah,
Kevin, of course.
that was great.
Oh, that was like, yeah. They've never done that. You'll never see that anywhere else. But
No, exactly. And so you kind of
Please
answered
watch
my
The Godfather.
question, was that you could have
I would
done
do that
more of
show
them.
now if I could. It was so much fun.
Yeah, but so I didn't realize that was why more didn't happen, was just you wanted to do.
Me.
Yeah, it was, but not too long after that, I think that something that obviously was well suited to you was The Critic. And The Critic was one of the first shows that sort of also then had like a second life on the internet, but it was like before there was money in that. because like I remember it ended on Fox, and then it was like, well, now there's new episodes on the internet, and that didn't last for that
Well,
long.
Al
But
Jean and Mike Reese were running The Simpsons, and I did like 4 Simpsons, and then A League of Their Own came out, was a big hit.
yeah,
And then Jim Brooks, he called me like 7 months later. He goes, listen, I have a deal at ABC, 24 on the air, 24 on the air to do a live sitcom. I want to do this with you. I don't know. What's wrong? But there was no script. And they explained it to me. I go, well, this sounds great, but you're asking me to commit to 5 years to an idea. And can I read a script? He goes, well, we're not going to audition for you. I said, well, I'm not asking you to audition. I'm sure you're great, but I don't know if what you're describing is in your head is the same as what I'm picturing in my head. I go, you don't have a script. And so I left, and then Al Jean said, Jim Brooks says, you better write a script. And then about a few months later, they go, we have a script, but we want to do it animated now. Oh, all right. So I read it, and in my living room, and I laughed out loud 10 times. It was so funny. But now you think of it, you go, what a luxurious position to be in, to go, I'm going to pick and choose what I want to do.
right.
Now that's gone.
Yeah.
You don't realize it because you think it's going to last forever. Well, I'll do this, I'll be an artist or whatever. I don't know, whatever, an artist, but you want to do, it's still acting. It's hard to do stuff for me if I'm not enthusiastic about it. I just can't do it. I don't know.
That makes sense.
This acting, it's like it means something to me. It's like I got to be enthusiastic. Oh, I want to do this,
Yeah.
Some stuff you do for the money, like commercials. Yes. But even then, I go, can we make it funny? No, I go, well, then I don't know. I don't want to do it. Is it funny? If it's funny, and, so it's not like you don't do nothing for money. And then stand up, it's great. You get to write and perform your own material. You can do as much as you want. You can make good living. It's all those things come in, when you're a professional in something, all those things come into play. They go, well, don't you want to do it for the love of the art and the free? You go, I did that. I did it for 13 years. No, I don't want to just do it for free anymore. I did it.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I got lucky enough to get work. Do you want to do it again for free? No.
And you started doing stand-up, much later on. I mean, I remember, seeing you a couple of different times. I think one of the times you did something at a casino, out on the way to Vegas. I think it was you, Carvey, Dennis, maybe Spade too.
I hosted it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And but so even that was like 15 years ago. So I kind of remember that it was like you were new to stand-up at that point. But
I wasn't headlining yet.
Yeah, that was about the time you started, right?
Years of doing that, hosting and learning, and
yeah.
And then I would host shows that would be like Kevin Nealon and Victoria Jackson and Norm Macdonald. I did that. Then I started opening for Norm. Then I co-headlined with Norm, and then I went on my own. Finally.
Right. And I just about a month ago, I just missed you in Vegas. I saw a big smiling Jon Lovitz billboard, and I'm like, oh, when's Jon in town? And it's like he's already left. So
well, I was supposed to be there a few weeks ago. I got sick.
Oh, okay.
I'll be back. It's a year-round thing. It's a residency, so I can do it whenever I want.
That's at the Tropicana.
Laugh Factory at the Tropicana, yeah.
The Laugh Factory at the Tropicana, yeah. Yeah. So that's but so do you have anything coming up stand-up wise that we should let the people know to keep an eye out for you?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, I do. And of course, you can go to @RealJonLovitz on Twitter and keep tabs on you there for any upcoming dates. And I assume
I can tell you.
Yeah, well, it's all right. I'm just vamping while you look them up. And I assume you're still on Cameo, correct?
Yes, I've been off for a little bit because I've been sick, but I'm better now.
All right. And so if anybody wants to get me a cameo for the 500th episode of the Bladtcast, ask Jon to do 2 minutes as Frenchie. And whatever he charges, I'll double it. This
isn't right. Oh, here we go. September 9th and 10th, I'll be at the Irvine Improv. I'm just doing one show each night.
Okay.
That's all they had. But they're going to bring me back in the summer. And then September 29th to October 1st, I'll be at the Comic Strip in El Paso, Texas for 4 shows. And then October 6th to 8th, I'll be at the Blue Room in Springfield, Missouri. And then October 20th to 23rd, I'll be in Milwaukee Improv in Brookfield, Wisconsin. And then November 4th to 6th, I'll be at the Improv in West Palm Beach Improv. And then I'll be at the Chicago Improv in Schaumburg, Illinois, a suburb, November 10th to 12th. Oh, so I go right from West Palm Beach to Chicago. Interesting.
Pack a jacket, Jon.
And then I'll be in Summit City Comedy Club in Fort Wayne, Indiana, December 8th to 10th. And then, well, right now I don't have a lot booked next year. June 8th.
Well, that's all right. It's only August as we're talking right now.
Niagara Casino in Niagara Falls next year.
2023 will take care of itself.
Then Tuesday, we're going to start shooting new episodes of the game show I do, Funny You Should Ask, which is just telling jokes.
Right.
And
you've been doing that for a while, right?
The bathroom. What's the date today?
When we're talking today, it's August 26th.
26th. It's my dad's birthday. God bless him.
Happy birthday, Mr. Lovitz.
Dr. Lovitz.
To you, Doctor.
Damn it!
Then
I'll be doing I'll be going to the bathroom
momentarily.
August 26th.
I hope you
later, not right
now.
now.
It'll be later. I hope you haven't during the last hour and 26 minutes because I haven't seen you leave. So hopefully you've been able to hold it in.
Dr. Doolittle with Rex Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a llama that was like attached in the middle, but a 2-headed llama facing both directions. And that always reminded me of going to the bathroom. It's called a push me, pull you.
Push me, pull you.
Right?
Well,
now I have to go make a push me, pull you.
Well, we'll let you push and
very mature.
But that's what we wanted from you: maturity, pushing, pulling.
I watch, Laurel and Hardy now, and I didn't get it when I was a kid. Now I just think they're hysterical because I realized it's 2 grown men acting like they're 8.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's I assume that's basically the same appeal of the Three Stooges as well.
And then Oliver Hardy looks at the camera like Laurel does, and Oliver Hardy just looks and goes, Phil Hartman, I would do stuff, and he would look at me like that. Just look at me and go. And I would crying, laughing. I would just be dying. Because I would say something and go.
Well, it's
Phil is the nicest, funniest guy. I miss him every day. Just the best.
Yeah, I mean, obviously
he was so talented, but he was, of course, he was more talented than he could do anything.
Yeah, no, he was great on the show. I mean, you talked about the number of times
he was a professional, graphic designer. If you see America's Best, his brother John was a big music manager, so Phil did the album covers for Poco and America's Greatest Hits, the Crosby, Stills and Nash logo. He was like that. He was a pilot. He was a professional sailor, professional. I mean, everything. But beyond all that, he was the nicest guy. So nice. He's the only guy that I've ever seen in groups of people that everybody loved. Didn't have any problems. From the Groundlings to Saturday Night Live to News Radio, everybody loved Phil. The best.
Yeah, and you mentioned how you had done a few episodes of The Simpsons before you did the Critic, and obviously he had like two like great recurring characters on that show. He had Troy McClure and Lionel Hutz, the lawyer, and they were in so many episodes, and it was like on top of everything on SNL, and he'd been on for an incredibly long time on that show. That was
A lot of the writers that were on SNL went over to The Simpsons. They're
right.
all Harvard Lampoon. Someone goes, "How can I be a writer at SNL?" I go to Harvard.
It's funny that you say that
On the
because
Lampoon. I mean,
I yeah, I had no idea of that until long after I was already in college. I'm like, wait a minute, I needed to be smart to be a comedy writer. I'm like, well, that was never going to work out for me, was it?
well, I mean, I went to Harvard High School.
Harvard Westlake here in LA.
But I got all these Harvard guys writing for me.
That's true.
So who's smart?
Yeah. No, I remember the year that I was an intern. There was
smart.
Yeah, there was like one of the writers had like gone to Duke, and you're like, oh, that was what they considered to be like, all of their like safety school. But I guess they thought he was funny anyway, because everybody else had pretty much, gone to Harvard, and obviously Conan being the
you want to hear the weird thing? Most comedy writers, and even they're not funny.
You mean conversationally they're not funny, or
not funny personalities, not witty, just not funny. Not very nice, very smart, not funny.
I mean, I have a friend.
They look at it like science. They're like, you go, what do you? He goes, this joke funny? You tell them, they go, they don't laugh. They go, yeah, that's good. Maybe you could say this.
Yeah,
it's like they're mathematicians. They don't laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend who wrote for years on a sitcom that was on a network, and I was just like, this person has never even come close to making me laugh once, but they've had produced half hours of television where there's a lot of laughs. So it somehow
there's exceptions. John Frink, he's Jake Hogan was in the Groundlings, and he named two characters after people in the Groundlings, Professor Hibbert and Professor Frink. Hibbert is Steve Hibbert, who was in the Groundlings, and is also the Gimp in Quentin Tarantino
in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, that's Steve. And then John Frink was in the Groundlings, and then I helped him get on the show. So I submitted he had a writing partner to Al. I did get to Al Jean, and Al hired him, and John's still there. It's his work, but I got him.
Right.
And John's funny, but John was a performer in the Groundlings.
Yeah, well,
and he's actually funny, but most Al and Mike are really nice, but they're not, and really smart, but they're not funny.
Yeah,
they're not.
No, I know, and it's interesting. All the talk about the Simpsons. I was just sort of thinking about
they're funny writers, but they're not funny people. They're just not.
When you think about gigs that come along, acting jobs that come along, when you think about the Simpsons, you think about all of them, but you think about Julie Kavner, who had been on Rhoda, and then it's like she's on that Tracy Ullman show, and it's like, oh, you're going to do these little short animated cartoons as part of that job in 1987, and then like 35 years later, she's like still doing that voice. It's
unbelievable.
Yeah.
And they're funny. She's funny. Dan Castellaneta is really funny. Of course, Hank Azaria is funny.
Yeah.
But when they do The Simpsons, and if they're there, I used to do. I go, hey, you guys have an idea, so let's do a thing where we're having sex, and then we'll tell Al, we have a great idea, and then we do it, and I'm like crying because they're doing the voices, of Homer and Marge, and me, Artie Ziff, having a three-way. They go, yeah. They would do it. They go, yeah. So then we go, Al, we have an idea, and then we do it for him, and he gets so flustered.
Did you do
hysterical? To hear those voices. Artie, you're so big. What about this? Oh. But it's worse
When
than that, and they're hysterical. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I think about animation, I think about how now a lot of
Very
times,
immature and childish, but it's hysterical.
yeah, but a lot of animation, the way that I understand, I have a friend who has worked on American Dad for a long time, and he talks about how
I don't recognize other cartoons, but go on.
but they're picked up for another season, so there's room for you if they
I'm
write
not
the right.
on it. It's no good.
It's no good. But what he's, they don't seem to, even pre-COVID, it's all like, remote hookups and people have microphones in their house and stuff like that. But did you do Simpsons and Critic like with the other cast around, or was
Yeah,
it?
it was fun. It was
Oh
at the
wow,
Fox lot, and there's a theater called the Daryl F. Zanuck Theater, and Daryl F. Zanuck was, one of the heads of the studio for years. Legendary guy.
right,
Anyway, they named the theater after him, and then in the basement there was another room where they would do sound editing, and that's where they would record The Simpsons. So everybody would be there, and there'd be couches, and there'd be tables of food, and then there'd be like a ping pong table, and then you would do your scene. Then you'd wait till they're ready, and you'd fall asleep on the couch and take a nap. And it was just one day, and it was really fun. And then they would do the Critic in there too. And one time I done this movie, Trapped in Paradise, a Fox movie. It was me and Nicolas Cage and me and Dana Carvey. So they were editing it in the Daryl F. Zanuck Theater, the movie, and I
yeah.
was downstairs recording the Critic. So I was very pleased. No, I was
uh,
thrilled. I was like, oh man. So I made up a song. I'm upstairs, I'm downstairs, I am the whole building. And it was that probably like the pinnacle of my career, but it was
to have a whole building working on Jon Lovitz projects.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It was I was yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's so hard. People don't understand how hard it is to get in and get
yeah,
work. Other actors do, but the people that do it, but otherwise they don't understand the work you have to put in for years with no guarantee, and the stress and the shit you take from everybody. And who do you think you are? Even from my parents, everybody. What are you doing? You're wasting your life, and it's just, you know, they don't understand. So when it happens, when I got Saturday Night Live, I could not say Saturday Night Live for the whole 5 years I was on it. I wasn't nervous during the show, but they go, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm on Saturday Night Live. I'm on Saturday Night." Yeah. I couldn't say it. Then as soon as I got off the show, I was on Saturday Night Live.
right.
I literally, it was just, I couldn't believe it. So I was always thrilled when I got a job. The reason I'm saying this, I never took a job for granted. And I was just like, thrilled.
Right. Yeah. Just be happy to be there. You mentioned the film Trapped in Paradise, which I think obviously
Which
when
I nicknamed Trapped in Shit.
well, that's what I was going to say. Is I know that you weren't a fan of that movie, but it does seem to have like a cult following in the years
Well,
since.
because the director, I don't even say his name, he just lied about everything. And
Sure.
said, I'm as good a director as Martin Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola. And I said to George Gallo, don't you think other people should say that? And they were on the set, and all he would say is, do whatever you want, do whatever you want. And everything, we would improvise a lot, and he didn't put any of it in the movie.
Oh,
None of it. I go, what do you? He goes, you'll be able to. He goes, he'd say, oh, you can come in the editing room and see what you help and what you like and stuff. And I go, when can I come in? Not now, not now. And then it never happened. And I go, you just lied. He goes, I lied. Like nothing. I go, you know what? And it was very, disappointing.
yeah.
He wouldn't direct. His
Well,
direction, do whatever you want. That's no
yeah,
direction.
and I guess directing isn't for everyone. I mean, years ago, I heard Carrie Fisher talk about George Lucas directing the first Star Wars, and after a take, he would just say faster, more intense, and that was really like that was it. She had shirts made up that said that because that was how he directed Star Wars. Was like, no, faster, more intense, and that was like, what are we supposed to do with that? And when you're Harrison Ford, you can kind of figure it out, but you have a lot of other actors on that Star Wars set
Well, a
wearing.
lot look at movie act. What you really have to learn is you really have to learn how to direct yourself.
Right.
You have to know how to make a scene work. That's your job. And most of the time, the directors don't know. They they'll they know how to set up a shot and what they want it to look like. But and they'll go, well, what do you want to do? And you work it out. Oh, that's good. But the only directors that usually know what to do, how to talk to actors and make the scene work are directors that were actors, like Penny Marshall, Rob Reiner, Woody Allen, guys like that. Now there's a few that do know, which are the great directors, like Steven Spielberg or Martin Scorsese. I did a voiceover in a cartoon and American Tail, Philo Goes West, and Steven Spielberg. A year later, they wanted to reshoot. I go, I don't remember what I did. These voices, they go, well, you're going to document it. I go, I don't know. I don't. Well, look, he's only doing it with two people. He only wants two people to be there. He goes, it's you and Jimmy Stewart. I went,
Oh, wow.
oh. And then I get there and I said, do you have the Steven Spielberg? I go, hey, can you introduce me to Jimmy Stewart? So Jimmy Stewart comes out of the booth. He goes, Jon Lovitz, this is Jimmy Stewart. And I go, oh, nice to meet you. I'm such a big fan. Well, I am a huge fan of this. He goes, oh. He goes, he's doing it. And he goes back in the booth and Steven Spielberg goes, can you believe it? No, I said, I can't believe it. He goes, I know, Jimmy Stewart. I go, no, I can't believe you just introduced Steven Spielberg, just introduced me to him, Jimmy Stewart. I'm just looking at both of them going, and then I didn't remember the voice. And I go, do you have any recording of the voice? They didn't have it.
Oh.
And I remember what I did. Because I did it one day. It was a year ago, and I made up some voice over a year. I didn't remember. But anyway, Steven Spielberg was nice. And he goes, well, it's kind of like this and this. Then we go, now in this scene, you do this. And he told me, and I go, oh, man, this guy knows. This guy knows acting and what to say and how to direct you so you can follow it. And, he's so that's another reason why his movies are so great. He does know, but most of them don't.
Yeah.
And George didn't know anything.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
and he blamed us.
Howard the Duck notwithstanding.
God didn't know his lines. And I go, that's what he would say. And I go, the first day scene, you shoot a movie out of sequence, so we're in the middle of a snow field, the middle of nowhere. And I go, now is this shot starting right after we drive the Lexus over the cliff and now we're back up? I don't know. I don't have time to answer those questions.
Jesus.
You don't know. You wrote the thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't know my lines as well. And that's true. That first scene I didn't. Because I didn't bother. And my dad had just died like 2 weeks before. And I was but after that I knew him and I knew them inside and out. Just that first thing. And my question, by the way, when I go, does this take place after the car's down the cliff and we're here? The answer was yes. So I was right, it was just, so 6 weeks in, Nicholas goes, we had a scene where we're changing clothes and money we robbed the bank, we're changing clothes. And so Nicholas, what do you want us to do? Well, do whatever you want, And Nicholas was like, no, you're the director. What do you want us to do? Whatever you want. Nicholas goes, all right, fine, forget it. You can't just do whatever you want. It's complicated. You got to choreograph it. So Nicholas took over and to do this and this. And after that, the three of us took over and go, let's see, maybe we should do this. Let's try this. You know what I mean? We had to. And the first AD took over, Jack Green. And one time they were doing a scene. And Dana goes, should we wait for George? And Jack Green goes, whispered in Dana's ear, what does he do? That's how bad it was.
Wow.
And I don't care if George's mad. The That's all he would say. Nicholas didn't do any press for it. He was so disappointed. And goes, oh man, this is bad. He goes, I got to do something dark.
Yeah.
And then he goes, hey, I got this script about a guy who drinks himself to death. It's pretty dark, don't you think? I go, yeah,
Yes.
I got to do that. And it was Leaving Las Vegas, and he did it next and won the Oscar.
That is pretty dark. And you don't have to name the project, but I've heard of people that haven't wanted to do press. Is there ever anything that turned out in a way where you're like, no, I'm not going to go on the Tonight Show and promote that?
Yeah. One time, I don't want to say what, but it was a movie.
It's fine.
I was only in it for 4 days. And then they wanted me to go on the show. I go, it's not my movie. I'm just like a small part. And they wanted me to go on a talk show. You're the only one that can get on. I go, look, my part's this. I'm not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I did it, I did it. And that I stopped doing movies like that, where I'm just doing it just for money. It's very, it kills you. It's just like, so they got mad at me. And then if you look at the movie, it looks like I'm the lead. Well, what is this?
Yeah.
Well, they don't know the other guys. I go, they worked on it for like 3 months or 4 month, 5 weeks. I was 3 days, 4 days. I go, I'm the lead. And then you go, what? Anyway, this stuff happens, but you got to work. You know what I mean? People go, well, you're lucky you're working. Yes, very lucky.
Well, give our friend Dennis Miller credit. He did the big media tour for his magnum opus, as he calls it, Bordello of Blood, the vampire hooker movie that he did. He was on every talk show promoting that because he felt he owed it to them.
Well, if you're the lead in a movie,
yeah.
But if you're,
yeah, right. No, exactly. And it was like that was why they were doing it.
You want me to be you're acting like I'm the lead.
I want to bring it full circle to close it down in a second, but I wanted to go back for 1 second talking about recording the Critic. Obviously, that was there's a great regular voice cast there, but what I just wanted to talk about one person who Maurice LaMarche, who does to me the best Orson Welles that I've ever heard. I remember very well him doing like fish sticks and pea commercials on the Critic. Were you around to sort of watch, this guy who doesn't look anything like Orson Welles just basically become Orson
Welles?
Like
a magic act, Maurice is amazing. He's got an amazing ear. In fact, I did a movie once. I don't know. I was mad. So they wanted a line dubbed. And I go, well, it was like, anyway, I don't know. I couldn't do it. They all come. I go, I go, you know what? I go, call Maurice. And I go, he imitates me. This is how good his ear is. Like he could imitate all those guys. Well, this is how good he is. 2 examples. One is I played it for Dana Carvey, him doing voices, and Dana's great. And Dana goes, that's spooky good. That's like, you couldn't believe it. And then one time, I think I was doing something in a movie, so he had to do a lot. Anyway, Maurice does a great impression of me. It's so good. He called me once. He goes, listen to this. And I'm listening, and I go, oh, that's me. He goes, no, that's me doing you. I go, no, that's me. He goes, no, it's me. And it was him. I thought it was me, and it was him doing me.
Oh,
he's unbelievable. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you'd swear it's the guy. He does Johnny Carson perfect. He does a lot of voice. So he did all the celebrity voices in the Critic.
Yeah. And I mean, his his biggest role was as the brain in Pinky and the Brain, and that voice is basically his Orson Welles voice. Yeah. You're talking about the voiceover thing. I was just reminding me of something that I saw Phil Hartman talk about on a talk show, forever ago. That there was some Nicholson movie he didn't want to do the ADR, the additional dialogue
Oh
required
no,
for
yeah, no. This is what happened was he could do Jack Nicholson,
Yeah.
so he dubbed the line. Jack Nicholson wasn't available, so they hired Phil to imitate him in a movie called The Border. The Border, but not like a guy at a home. It was like the border, like a Mexican border, the border of a country. Anyway, so Phil got me into golf. We were at Witsit in Studio City. Phil and I and Dana, and Nicholson would go out there and play golf. So we're out there, like I think the second hole. It's like a par 3 thing, and just practice. Anyway, so we look and Jack Nicholson's behind us. We see him and then he like hits a ball and he hits a car in the street. It was pretty funny. So we wave him through, like, go ahead. And so he's walking and I said, Phil, you should do your line for him. And he goes, no, I don't want to do that. I go, no, he'd like it, So anyway, Jack Nicholson goes, hello, fellas. You're Lorne. And I go, and I'd met Jack Nicholson before they had. And I go, hi, Phil and Dana, they're on the show. He goes, yeah, I know who you guys are. So we're talking. And I go, Jack, Phil did a line of yours once. He dubbed a line of yours once. And and Phil goes, well, it was the movie you did, the Border, and you were in the. So I did the line. So Phil does his impression of the line that he did. So he's doing his impression of Jack Nicholson to Jack Nicholson. And Jack Nicholson goes, the Border, and Jack Nicholson goes, oh, no wonder it was my only loser. And then he walks away, and then Phil looks at me and goes, God damn it, John. I told you I didn't want to do it. And I, of course, I'm crying, laughing. Because he didn't want to do it. And I go, no, do it. I thought Jack Nicholson would like it, and then that's what he said.
It's my only loser.
It was so funny. Phil was so mad.
Well, you started off talking about how seeing Woody Allen and listening to the albums, that was sort of an
Yeah, and I used to imitate him.
Yeah.
Albums, do the routines in my dorm, and I'd write out all the lines and what he would say, and arrows going up, and when his voice would go up or down or hit a consonant. And I didn't realize it then, but I was teaching myself, imitating him. I was learning timing and delivery and
So what was it like for you to actually get to do a Woody Allen movie, Small Time Crooks? I think that was
I was in heaven.
Yeah, that's what I imagined.
And we had a scene. I didn't. It was all my scenes were with Woody Allen and Michael Rappaport and Tony Darrow, and they're all from New York and have thick New York accents, very thick. And I'm from Los Angeles, the Valley, Tarzana. So I wanted to ask Woody. I go, Helen Robbins, the producer, I go, can I ask a question? Well, he's busy making the movie. He doesn't like questions. I go, well, I'm in the movie he's making. I'm in it. I can't ask him. She goes, well, what's your question? I go, well, I just want to know if I should do a character because they're all from New York, or I should just be me. She says, well, you probably just be yourself. I go, well, I can't ask him. She says, well, he doesn't like questions. So anyway, I'm on the set the first day, and I said, I go, Woody, please, I know you don't like questions, but I just have one question, just one. It's about my character. Can I please ask? He goes, yeah, okay. I go, okay, good. So I want to know, should I do a character? He goes, well, as long as it's real, So anyway, so we do this scene. I didn't have any lines. He goes, I'll just tell you what I told the other guys. If you want to change anything, go ahead. I go, really? I won't change your dialogue. He goes, yeah. He goes, and just make, conversational. That's what I want. Okay. So the next day I had a scene where I had lines. So I was imitating this guy named Cha-Cha, who used to be a boxing manager. He's Tony Danza's boxing manager. And he had a restaurant in the village, and Cha, he was on, if you hear the Wise Guys radio show. He was on that Cha-Cha, and he talks like this, Cha-Cha, and he goes, "Yeah, this woman, she said I was the quintessential New Yorker." You know, he sounded like Sheldon Leonard, but he talks like this. You know, so I started doing that. Woody goes, "Come here, come here." He goes, "Listen, you don't need to do that." You know, he goes, "Because guys like us were funny." He goes, "They're good, but guys like us were already funny." And just when I tell people it's going to be me and Jon Lovitz, they think it's fantastic. So, guys like you don't have to do it. Guys like us are already funny. I go, "Okay." So I go back to my mark and I started crying because, when I was growing up, I wanted to be Willie Mays. As a kid, my dad would yell, "Oh, there's more to life than Willie Mays." And I remember going, "No, there isn't." I was 12, and then I wanted to be Woody, like a comedian. And he goes, "Who do you think you are, Woody Allen?" So now, I'm doing his routines in my dorm. And I saw the movie Take the Money and Run when I was 13. First time, and 29 years later, I'm in a movie with Woody Allen, and he's saying "guys like us," right?
Yeah.
And it was like, he's why I became a comedian. Now he's the guy why saying "guys like us" were already funny. I mean, fellow comedians. So I just was like, it validated my whole life. And I started crying. I go, "Geez, I got to get a hold of myself. I'm going to lose it." And I remember called Dana Carvey that night, and he goes, "What's it like?" And I go, he said, "Guys like us." I told him the story, and Dana started screaming, "Guys like us." I go, "I know, guys like us." Like, he got it right away, And he couldn't have been nicer to me. It was fantastic. And one of the scenes, it was just the two of us, and he kept wanting to reshoot it because he wanted to make it longer. And he goes, "I hope you don't mind." I go, "Mind?" Someone said to me, John, he said he hopes you don't mind doing it. I go, "I'll do it all day, every day. Are you kidding?" And I went up to him. We're doing the scene. I go, "Woody, what I thought I would do?" He goes, "No, don't tell me. Surprise me." I go, "Okay." So I go back, and he goes, "Well, this happens in the scene. You go here, and then maybe you go here." I go, "Okay." But I'm like this. He's telling me, I'm
Big smile. Yeah.
I was so happy. I was so thrilled. I cannot tell you. Thrilled. And 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 we're doing the scene, and I've never felt that in sync with another actor, because I realized I learned my timing from him. So it just felt perfect. Him taking, "No, it's this. I go, "No, it's this," and I could feel it. And I remember going, "Oh, does he feel this? Does he not? No, this is the new comedy team." I should have said it to him.
Yeah.
And I kept making him laugh, which was thrilling. And then he would come up to me. He goes, "I looked at the dailies from the scene yesterday." He goes, "You really made me laugh." And I could see myself laughing. He goes, "But I never laugh at dailies. And I just want you to know you really made me laugh."
Yeah. No, I mean that.
I became a comedian, and I'd met him like 5 years before through Brian Hamill. Brian Hamill was a still photographer. Brian was a friend of mine, and Brian, like, if you know the famous poster from what's the one they're on the bridge, him and Woody Allen, Diane Keaton in Manhattan, or
I think so. Yeah.
Brian. That's Brian's photo. All the photos are Brian's. All the posters. And so I'd gotten to meet him before, and I got to go. He goes, "If you ever want to come to the set," and Brian goes, "What do you say?" He goes, "Come back anytime." He goes, and Brian's like, "He's told you come back to the set anytime. He never lets anyone on the set. He must really like you."
Yeah.
I go, "Well," but
Well,
I was thrilled. It was the best. It was the best. One time, he was talking to Michael Rappaport and I, and and then he leaves. And Michael was just as thrilled as me to be working with him, right? And Michael looks at me and goes, "John, he goes, think about it." He goes, he goes, 10 minutes of pure Woody."
yeah.
And I go, "Right?" We were both like, Woody. He was our idol. We were like,
yeah, he's like the master thespian for you, in terms of like you modeled everything on him.
And then he goes, "Say whatever you want." But now, what was great was brilliant about him was, like, if a scene wasn't working, he goes, "It's not working." It wouldn't matter, because we felt he's going to fix it. And then he would. He goes, "Nah, maybe do this." And he knew what he was doing. So you knew you were in the hands of a master. So it was just like, it was fantastic. It was the best.
Yeah.
Then he'd stop at 4:30. He goes, I got to go to a basketball game. It's not my life. No one had that attitude.
Yeah. it's the opposite of SNL, where people didn't show up till 4:30 in the afternoon and work until
Yeah,
the sun comes up.
but it was great, and I go, put me in another one. Put me in another one.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, Jon, it's always a delight to get the chance to talk to you, and I appreciate you being so generous with your time and so many great stories.
Do you?
I do. And when
Ah,
we get another 500 episodes under my belt, then we'll talk to you for episode 1,000. But maybe sooner. That would be great.
how's your
But
podcast doing?
well,
yeah, wait a minute.
my
So
my
it's an honor.
my joke line is that
500th show. It's an honor and an insult. It
an
took
insult.
500 shows to get to me. On
Yeah.
the other hand, we're celebrating 500 with you.
Yeah.
An honor. I am honored and I am insulted at the same time.
When we got to 200
how rude.
How rude. When I got to 200 episodes, I had Dennis on episode 201 because I thought it was funny. I don't think he thought it was funny. I think he wanted to be on 200. I was like, but you're on 201. Isn't that funny? He's like, no. He didn't say it like that. But
tell him I'm on 500. He'll go, again?
Well, exactly.
How many people listen to this?
My joke is that we have more episodes than we have listeners. That is not actually true. But it's it is definitely built up. We have a very core loyal audience. I think when people see that Jon Lovitz is on, this will be one of our highest rated episodes in the perhaps in the six figures is what I'm hoping for. So, and hopefully everyone who's listening and watching, they go and see you in all those upcoming
103.892.
103.892. But maybe look, as long as we have one person in Schaumburg, Illinois, one person in Springfield, Missouri, and all of the cities that you listed earlier, that I feel like is going to be a success.
The last time I did a podcast sitting here, it was with Bob Saget.
Oh, you know what? I heard that one. Your animals kept crawling all over you while you were talking to Bob.
It's very funny.
Yeah. Bob was great.
Up the butt one too many times.
What did you have to do for you spent so much of your act talking about Bob at one point. So
I know.
Yeah. But I guess well, I don't know. Can you just adapt the jokes to be about Dave Coulier?
No. I still try some of it. I was in Florida when I heard the news. I was working. And Bob was such a great friend, and I felt so guilty not being able to go to his funeral,
Yeah.
And then I realized, well, it's not like he's coming to mine.
I feel like if there's anyone who would appreciate that joke, it's Bob.
God bless him. Yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah. But this is a joyous occasion. Jon Lovitz making his first, perhaps only, but hopefully not only appearance on the Bladtcast. We'd love to have you back at Real
DMZ.
Jon Lovitz.
I thought it said TMZ. Jesus.
Yeah, Christian DMZ. No. I don't have.
Zone. Does that mean that Dennis Miller isn't in it?
Yeah, well, that is when I developed my Twitter name was during the old radio show, and Dennis had the premium member service, like a lot of radio shows do, was called the DMZ. So Dennis, when he was on Twitter, he was Dennis DMZ. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll be Christian DMZ. And I thought about changing it, but I'm like, nobody knows me from not that. So I like Christian Bladtcast isn't really going to catch on. So I just kept Christian DMZ. So that's how we got it. And that is a perfect way to end our conversation here as part of our 500 episode celebration.
Don't stop talking.
I know. I'm trying. But thanks again to Jon Lovitz. Thanks to everybody. Please like.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
And subscribe. We'll see you next time on the